Have you ever arrived somewhere and felt different almost immediately? Not happier, not more excited, just calmer. Your shoulders drop, your breathing slows down, your thoughts feel less noisy. You sleep better. You feel less overwhelmed by the people around you. And for the first time in weeks, maybe even months, your nervous system feels like it can finally exhale. Many people with ADHD, hypersensitivity, or simply a highly responsive nervous system describe exactly this experience when they travel through Northern Europe. Countries like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and parts of northern Germany often leave visitors with a surprising feeling of relief. They cannot always explain why. They simply know that they feel better there. Most people assume the answer is obvious: more nature, fewer people, cleaner cities. While all of those things play a role, they do not tell the whole story. The real reason Northern Europe often feels calmer has much more to do with how your nervous system interacts with the environment around you. Because whether you realize it or not, your brain is constantly responding to everything around you. The architecture, the noise, the pace of life, the social expectations, the visual complexity, the amount of stimulation entering your senses every minute of the day. And for ADHD brains, those details matter far more than most people realize. One of the biggest misconceptions about ADHD is that it is primarily an attention problem. In reality, many ADHD adults spend their lives managing an energy problem. They are constantly processing information, making decisions, adapting to changing situations, filtering distractions, regulating emotions, and responding to an environment that often demands more from their nervous system than it can comfortably handle. This is one reason why some places feel energizing while others feel exhausting. Two people can visit exactly the same city and have completely different experiences. One person feels stimulated and alive. The other feels drained after only a few hours. The difference is often not the city itself. The difference is how much information each person's nervous system is being asked to process. Northern Europe tends to reduce that load in ways that are subtle but incredibly powerful. Most people notice the result before they understand the cause. They simply feel calmer, less rushed, less mentally cluttered, less tired. The environment is doing some of the work that their nervous system normally has to do on its own. One of the most important factors is visual complexity. Modern neuroscience shows that our brains are constantly scanning the environment for information. Every sign, advertisement, moving object, crowd, flashing light, and architectural detail requires processing. Even when we are not consciously paying attention, our brains are still working. Many Southern European cities are vibrant, colorful, energetic, and full of life. They are wonderful places to visit, but they are also visually dense. Narrow streets, packed cafes, outdoor markets, scooters, traffic, colorful storefronts, and constant movement create a rich sensory experience. For some people, this feels exciting and inspiring. For others, it creates a steady stream of cognitive demand. Northern European cities often feel different. The architecture tends to be simpler. Public spaces are often more spacious. Streets feel wider. Visual design is frequently more minimalistic. There is less visual competition for your attention. This creates what many people experience as mental breathing room. Your brain has fewer inputs to process simultaneously, which means it uses less energy throughout the day. Noise is another major factor. Many people underestimate how much energy noise consumes. Even sounds that we are not consciously paying attention to can activate stress responses in the nervous system. Traffic, sirens, crowds, construction work, loud conversations, and unpredictable sounds all require neurological processing. Your brain is constantly monitoring them, deciding whether they matter, and determining whether they represent a potential threat. For people with ADHD or sensory sensitivity, this process can be especially exhausting. Northern Europe often feels quieter, not because it is silent, but because the overall sound environment is more predictable. There is generally less honking, less shouting, less chaotic traffic, and fewer sudden auditory interruptions. The result is a reduction in background stress that many people notice immediately, even if they cannot explain why they feel more relaxed. Another reason Northern Europe often feels calming is predictability. ADHD brains frequently spend enormous amounts of energy adapting to unexpected situations. This does not mean people with ADHD dislike novelty. In fact, many thrive on novelty. The challenge is that every unexpected change requires executive functioning. It requires planning, adjustment, decision-making, and mental flexibility. When trains run on time, streets are easy to navigate, systems are organized, and public services function predictably, the brain spends less energy solving small problems throughout the day. Northern European countries are often known for exactly these qualities. Public transportation tends to be reliable. Infrastructure tends to be organized. Rules are generally followed. Daily life becomes easier to navigate, and that reduction in friction frees up cognitive resources for other things. Social culture also plays an important role. This is a factor many travelers notice without consciously recognizing it. Northern European cultures often place a high value on personal space and social boundaries. People generally stand further apart. Public spaces are quieter. There is less expectation for spontaneous interaction. Conversations tend to occur at lower volumes. Social engagement is often more intentional rather than constant. For sensitive nervous systems, this can feel surprisingly restorative. Every social interaction requires processing. Your brain monitors facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, emotional cues, and social expectations. These interactions are not bad. They are simply demanding. When social demands decrease, many people experience a level of relief that feels almost physical. Nature is another piece of the puzzle, but perhaps not in the way most people think. The benefit is not simply that Northern Europe has beautiful landscapes. The benefit is that nature is often integrated into everyday life. Parks, lakes, forests, waterfronts, green corridors, walking trails, and natural spaces are frequently woven directly into cities and neighborhoods. Researchers studying attention restoration theory have found that natural environments engage the brain differently than highly stimulating urban environments. Nature creates what psychologists call soft fascination. Instead of demanding focused attention, it gently holds attention without overwhelming it. This allows parts of the brain responsible for concentration and executive functioning to recover. Many ADHD adults instinctively seek out water, forests, mountains, or quiet natural environments when they feel overwhelmed. They often assume they are simply escaping stress. In reality, they may be giving their brains an opportunity to reduce cognitive load and replenish mental resources. The environment itself becomes part of the recovery process. Perhaps the most overlooked factor of all is pace. Modern life encourages speed, faster communication, faster decisions, faster schedules, faster work, faster travel, faster everything. Many people spend years believing they have an energy problem when they actually have a pace problem. Northern Europe often feels different because life moves slightly more slowly, not dramatically slower, just enough to notice. People linger in cafes. Public spaces encourage walking rather than rushing. Conversations unfold at a different rhythm. There is often less pressure to perform urgency at every moment of the day. For women with ADHD, especially after 40, this can be profoundly regulating. Many have spent decades pushing themselves to match environments that were never designed for the way their nervous systems function. When they finally encounter an environment that demands less stimulation, less speed, and less constant adaptation, they often discover something surprising. They are not lazy. They are not weak. They are not failing. They simply function better when their environment supports rather than competes with their nervous system. And this is perhaps the most important lesson from Northern Europe. The goal is not necessarily to move there. The goal is to understand why you feel different there. Because once you identify the factors that help your nervous system thrive, you can begin creating more of those conditions wherever you live. You can reduce visual clutter in your home. You can seek quieter neighborhoods. You can spend more time in nature. You can create stronger boundaries around noise and social demands. You can choose travel destinations that support your energy instead of depleting it. You can design a life that works with your nervous system rather than constantly fighting against it. Because the truth is that many people who believe they are too sensitive are actually responding appropriately to environments that are asking too much of them. When the demands of the environment decrease, the nervous system often reveals what it is capable of when it is no longer operating in survival mode. And perhaps that is why so many ADHD and highly sensitive adults feel calmer in Northern Europe. Not because those countries are perfect, but because they often place fewer demands on the brain every single day. Sometimes the greatest form of self-care is not changing yourself. Sometimes it is changing the environment around you. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to Complex Brain Living. Every Wednesday and Sunday, we explore how ADHD brains, sensitive nervous systems, travel, environment, and modern life interact, and how to create a calmer, healthier, and more sustainable way of living. If you've ever traveled somewhere that made you feel instantly calmer, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear where it was and what made it feel different. Until next time, take care of your brain, protect your energy, and I'll see you in the next video.